Hello there. The so-called developed world is descending into the pit. A pit where a girls' school is considered by some as a legitimate target for violence. How depraved do you have to be to do this? Directly target a little Jewish girls' school. An elementary school for Jewish girls in Toronto, Canada, was shot at by two assailants during Yom Kippur. Thankfully at 4 a.m, so no one was hurt and little damage was caused. But this was not a one-off incident. The Bais Chaya Elementary School in North York had already been on the receiving end of a similar attack back in May this year, where again no one was hurt. And the outcome may not be so good if there is a next time. I shudder to think what could happen, and the last thing we need is another flashpoint. And other Canadian schools for Jews have also been fired at, and one was the subject of a 6 Molotov cocktail onslaught last November. And it's just another sad event among the rising tide of anti-Semitism in Canada. The Toronto Police Services Board said there had been a 42.6% rise in hate crimes in the last year, but when looking at anti-Semitism in isolation, it was 74.5%. The Jewish communities around the world had to suffer the hatred of the 7th of October last year, and now they have to endure endless anti-Semitism, some of it violent. Not just in Canada, but around the world. And why? Because Israel had the temerity to defend itself against multiple Iranian-funded terrorist threats. But it's how emboldened the anti-Semites now appear to be that should be worrying everyone. They parade around with their placards and chants, comfortable in the knowledge that no one in authority will challenge them. And if they do get challenged, then the police will step in to remove the challengers so as to keep the peace. Conservative Thornhill MP Melissa Lantsman had already criticised the Canadian government regarding May's event, saying that a failure to confront anti-Semitism in street and campus protests had led to incidents like these. "Wake up, Canada," she said. "We're losing the fight for Western values and the rule of law, and your governments are failing you, all of them." Yes. Sounds like just about all of our Western governments, doesn't it? And Israel's Consul General to Toronto, Idit Shamir, said incidents like the one in May should have come as no surprise when there is no deterrence following anti-Semitic attacks on Jewish students. While the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs said it was a clear, calculated and premeditated targeting of a Jewish school for girls, multiple shots fired by multiple suspects that linger outside for considerable time while waiting for their opportunity to shoot wildly into the building. And it went on to say it wanted to see swift action and swift justice in the face of another worrying escalation in the violence Jewish Canadians have been experiencing. And all that was said after May's attack on the same school, but nothing deterred the perpetrators from this latest incident, did it? At least the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he was very disturbed to learn of the incident. Welcome to the pit of hell. Richard.
I remember when I was in school as a young lad, in our history lessons, that we were taught about the Holocaust and what happened to the Jews there. And we were taught very much that we should never allow this to happen in our lifetimes, that our generation had a responsibility to make sure that this never happened again. And yet here we are, with anti-Semitism running rife. You see, when an attack on a Jewish school takes place in a Western country, it serves as a reminder, a perfect reminder as to why the Jews want to have their ancestral homeland back, and thus legitimizes the Jews demanding their homeland. Considering the fact that they have been driven out of every country in the world, yes, historically they have been at war practically with the rest of the world, trying to get rid of them. Why? Why? Well, there's a satanic reason for that. You should know that. But anyway, that's another story. But why should they not want to live in a country that is geared towards their safety when they live in fear in every other country in the world? Let us not forget this attack took place in Justin Trudeau's dystopian Canada, where they have practically legalized and encouraged euthanasia. So that should give you an idea of the moral grounding of that once great country. Yes, what has happened to Canada? It keeps going through my mind. So it looks like Jews in Canada face the same issues as Jews do in Britain and elsewhere across Europe, where anti-Semitism has skyrocketed since October the 7th last year. But do you hear the so-called justice warriors championing the rights of the Jews? No, of course not. No, the left have formed an unspoken, possibly spoken pact with a certain demographic because they both breathe the same anti-Semitic air as each other. But we forget that the Middle East is far more nuanced than meets the eye. We forget that Israel and Iran were great friends before 1979. Yes, before the 1979 takeover of Iran by you-know-who. And that takeover was one of the greatest shames of the CIA and MI5. Even Ronald Reagan admitted that. Yes, we're one of the most wonderful countries on earth fell to fundamentalist ideology, where many of the clerics were not even Iranian. Was the Shah of Iran wonderful? No. But if the clocks could be turned back and the revolution halted, hardly anyone in Iran would support the Shah being deposed. But I digress. Right now, Israel is surrounded by enemies, funded by Iran, who want Israel wiped off the face of the earth. But that hateful sentiment doesn't apply to the peoples of Iran, who have begged for help for years to remove the mullahs. And to many of them, Israel is their only hope of freedom. I did just say that, yes. And the same applies to the people of Lebanon, many of whom also support the actions of Israel and pray for them to remove the Iranian-funded Hezbollah. Yes, they want them gone from their country as well. And we should be praying for Israel. Yes, we should be praying for them to succeed also, because many of Iran's highly paid agents walk freely right across the West, doing the bidding of their masters in Tehran, but not the Iranian people. That's the bit you've got to get into your head. Yes, successive Tory and Labour governments have pretty much welcomed every dangerous person into this country from Iran, and clearly only Israel have the will to stop, or rather to stem their influence. Why do you think so many Israeli flags and pre-1979 Iranian flags are being held together in anti-extremism marches? Why do you think that is? The Iranian people and the Lebanese people are not the enemies of Israel. And the Israelis know it. It's just such a shame that the soy latte guzzling liberal lefties singing about a river and a sea didn't know that simple fact. Before I go, though, I have some important news for you. In a few days at 7 p.m. every night, I will be here doing something for our political prisoners in the UK. I would very much appreciate it if you could meet me here at 7 p.m. to pray. That's right, to do a little prayer at the end of one of the live streams with Jeff, to pray for our political prisoners, because they need our prayers. And yes, prayers are actions and do have an impact. So that live stream will be regular and will be coming soon. You see, if we want to be the Britain of yesteryear, we need to be the people of yesteryear. I know I'm repeating myself there. You see, those people, they prayed and they knew the importance of prayer. Anyway, God bless you all, and bye for now.